Well, good morning. I'm your host, Tom Lilienthal, for Fender Pre-CBS Basses Facebook group. And we've got another great show for you this morning. A couple of good friends of mine who are musicians that live here locally in the Bay Area, but are in fact world-class musicians. And if you look at the little blurb that I put on Facebook on our page, it pretty much is a pretty complete bio of both of these guys. Very notable. First of all, very notable keyboard player in the Bay Area who actually we've known each other for, I don't even want to say how many years, but it's been decades. And he's a very good friend of mine. Would you please welcome Frank Martin? Hey, Frank, how you doing this morning?
I'm great. Good morning.
Yeah,
good to be here.
Good to have you here. Let me move on and get our other guest on here. Another more recent friend of mine I met when we were both out at the Lafayette summer camp, music camp. And he teaches out there and also is a world-class drummer and lives here in the Bay Area. Please welcome Dazon Claiborne. Hey, Dazon, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
Well, let's jump into this thing. This is something that Frank and I have talked about in the past, where I, as a bassist, was asking him what he looks for in a bassist. And we talked about this before, and I thought, well, this might be, it's a little bit of a departure from Fender Pre-CBS basses, but at the same time, assuming that most of us, if not all of us, are bass players, these are questions, at least I, as a bassist, always want to know. And to have these two fine gentlemen field your questions, that's the direction we're going in. So I want to remind you guys that we've got that comment section over on your, I believe it's the right-hand side of your screen. And if you're watching this, go ahead and type in your comments or your questions for these guys, and we'll move on. But who wants to start with what you're looking for in a bassist?
Dazon. Well, you want to start?
Oh, no. Everything kind of went out for a second.
Yeah, you were frozen for a second. Yeah. That may happen every now and then.
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, I don't mind saying, I think this bassist, and it's not just a bass player, but everyone, somebody who serves the music, puts the music first and parks the ego at the door, and somebody who listens, I guess this is, again, it goes to everyone, piano players, myself included, and somebody who grooves, somebody who has a great sense of time and feel. And I think that's the essence of it right there, and they have to have a van to pick up my gear.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
And that's kind of first, but
Are you guys taking notes? So I had an interesting thing happen where as I was coming up, people had said to me, well, you're the bassist, therefore you're the guy that's responsible for the time in the band. And I don't ever want to have this discussion with the drummer, but this is what I was told. And then other people had said, well, actually, the drummer's responsibility is to keep the time in the band. And of course the bass player should lock in with them and all that. And then I just heard an interesting interview with Victor Wooten, who I liked his answer a lot, but he says, everybody's responsible for the time in the band. It's not one guy, right? You guys are in agreement.
Completely in agreement. Yeah. That's kind of an ancient thing. It's like growing up, everybody was like the drummer or the bass player. And I think that's completely wrong. I think everybody's responsible for the time, and everybody needs to feel the time and feel the groove. Generally in bands, growing up playing here in the Bay Area, a lot of times people would just lean over for the drums or the bass, growing up. But later on in life playing, I even realized that, hey, we all need to feel the time and the groove, and the more that everybody connects, the better we're going to sound, the better that we're going to deliver the message and the music, if we all understand the groove and spend time with the groove. So,
Is it safe to say then in this discussion that maybe groove is number one, or it's one of many that are important? Because obviously time's important as well, but groove is part of that.
Yeah, I would say groove is super important. I mean, to me, to play, you've got to be able to feel motion and movement, and you've got to be able to understand how to move in and out of time, and to play with other people. That's a huge thing. And in order to play with other people, you got to be like a really super great listener. I mean, you got to listen. I mean, even before you play, you got to like become a great listener. To me, I mean, the best moments of my life, growing up, was people would always say, mentors would say, hey, you know what? That's all fine and well, but you need to make sure you listen and you can hear everything that's going on with the band. And that's, to me, how it all works.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Airto told me a short little story. He said when I first started playing with Miles Davis, the very first time he said I played with him, we played for about 10 seconds and he stopped the band. And he didn't even look at me. He just said, now listen and play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they went to play. And he says it changed his life. He said he'd never heard that in that way. He just played because he was so great and he was so eager to play with Miles Davis that he just let out all the stops, which he still did anyway, but he played from a different perspective. All of a sudden, right, I have to listen and find my space, because playing in a band it's communication. We're talking to each other, having a conversation. And if we're not listening, it's kind of rude in one way, but at the same time, it doesn't serve the band, since you're kind of like a family. And so you have to do that. We've all learned, I know I personally have learned that big time, from not listening, and all of a sudden I get it. When they don't call back, all of a sudden you're going, I have a fan.
Not ringing. The phone's not ringing. Wait a minute, let me check. Is my phone on? Hello.
Exactly.
Well, if we have, for instance, I'm sure that in the group we have some pros and some world-class players as well, but we obviously have some beginners and some intermediates. So obviously the listening thing, that's something that you develop the ability to do that by doing. But do you have any suggestions for guys that are coming up? You were talking about grooves. So how do you learn how to establish a groove? What would be the tools for that?
Well, I mean, coming from a drummer standpoint, I would say that, to spend time listening to various genres of music, to understand groove. So, you can't play funk, for example, unless you listen to it and get the ins and outs, of it. You can't swing unless you listen to it, to get the ins and outs. And it still comes back to listening, no ego. See, the whole thing is if you throw all that out the door, it opens you up to a whole world, and as a kid, and I could speak for myself, and I still feel like a kid about it, is that, man, to sit down and just listen to a groove or someone playing drums on a certain kind of, song or whatever from a certain genre, was like, man, how's he doing that? How's he playing? How's it landing that way? So that to go and emulate that, to actually listen and then go play afterwards opens up a whole world. So to me, for kids, more so than, I mean, there's many things you can do, but if you just sit down and just like grab your axe and just see what it feels like from listening to various genres, so you're going to play some funk, so listen to some funk. You're going to play some jazz, so listen to some jazz, to get the ins and outs of it, because if you don't listen to it, to me, it's not ever going to happen for you. And as a kid, you're free, man. You're like, you're a kid. You don't have to make a living at doing it. So that's the opportune time to make it work,
And also you're also buying into the idea that with that, you're also developing your listening skills, which we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember taking one piano lesson from this guy, Don Haas. He was great piano player. First call for whoever came to town, if it was Sammy Davis Jr. or Frank Sinatra, all those kinds of, large names. At one point, even Sammy Davis Jr. stopped the band and said, I never do this on a concert, but I just want our piano player to play. play something, and he just let him play, which is pretty unusual. But anyway, he gave me the advice. He says, when you're in school, your teacher says to you, Frank, don't listen to John, don't listen to Mary, focus and listen to me, put your attention here. And there, he says, there's so much value in that, having the ability to focus on one thing is really important. He says, in music, you can't do that. He says, you have to have that focus, but you also have to listen over here to the tuba player. You have to listen over here to the violin section. You've got to listen to what the kick drum is doing and the snare is doing, not just the hi-hat. You've got to listen to the entire spectrum. And that, he says, therein lies the rub. You have to relearn how to listen. And so he suggested listening to CDs, of course, is one way, or your albums, whatever, and try to pinpoint every detail that you hear, and then when you're playing in a band, you're listening to that entire spectrum and then finding your spot that supports that. So I love that. I love that one lesson. We didn't play the piano at all. We just talked about how to listen, and it was awesome. He was a freak because he'd say, "Do you hear that Cessna 172 going overhead?" What? You look out the window and there's a Cessna. And he says, "Do you hear that 1983 Cadillac going down the street?" And I said, "Get out of here." I look out the window and there's a 1983 Cadillac driving down the street.
Check it out, man.
And it's like, damn. And he says, admittedly, I'm a freak about sound. I admit it, but that's the detail you listen for.
Yeah, that's the detail. I remember, actually, it's so funny too, because as a kid, I played on cans and buckets and stuff. I didn't even have a drum kit, for a while. But I would just outside, I listened to everything. How a motor would run, how a train would go by. The sound, the motion of the train, man. It was like almost like hi-hat kind of vibe to me. I go to the beach, and the ocean was just like mallets on cymbals, swells. I always thought of cymbals. Rain just like knocked me out, man. I'd been, if I was in the bed, man, rain was just like killing me because it was just like ping, 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 ping. I was like, whoa, check out those rhythms. And that's all natural.
How about either tennis ball or tennis shoes and a dryer?
Any of that. All of that. All of that, man.
That's how I learned to groove.
Right, man.
I used to drive up
That's
there
as funky
crazy.
as it gets, man.
That's funky, man. I'm telling you. I used to drive him crazy, man. He's like, what are you doing? I said, wait, don't you hear it? Don't you hear it?
Where's one?
That's great.
Well, I wanted to throw something in here. I had the good fortune when I was out at the Lafayette camp to take Frank's, I guess it's a rhythm class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And we deal a lot with, or he's teaching us a lot about odd meter. And to me, it's not something I ever spent a lot of time on. And so it always seemed to be a mathematical equation. And I took Frank's class, and he would break things down mathematically, but he very quickly went, again, back to our first subject of groove, about this is all about movement. You got to move your body, whether you're stomping your heel or your foot, or you're clapping your hands, or you're moving your body, or whatever. And that was the very first time that there was a connection made with, oh, you can actually groove if you're playing in 9 or 11 or something like that.
It's all about the dance. Music is dance and singing, and then everything else we do is on top of that. And so the more you get in a groove internalized, then you can play that music, and it's not just odd meter, it's 4/4, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
The key, again, goes back to what Dazan was saying. You have to listen to the genres and get the syntax, the feel for what that music is all about. If it's an odd meter thing, well, there's all kinds of 5/4s out there. If you're from Peru, or if you're a jazz 5/4, or if you're George Duke rocking out on a 5/4, I mean, it's just a number, it's just a dance. And so you learn to internalize that and get your body to feel what 5 beats is like, or what 11 or 19 or 23, it doesn't matter what it is. You get a cycle going, and you never have to count. Never have to count.
Yeah.
Just feel it. Just like if you're playing a blues, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and trying to play the blues, you can't do it, without being distracted by the numbers. Same thing for 5, 7, 9, whatever. You get the dance, and then you don't have to count. Gets out, you're free.
You're free. Yep. That's true. That's very true. And I even like it lately over the last few years. For me, it's been almost like trying to make everything like a melody to play. You know?
Yes.
So to me, once you get in a melody, man, then you've got the box, you know, and then the melody just goes around and around. So you're not even thinking about the time signature because it's a melody. So it's true to the time. You don't have to worry about it afterwards. You go, wow, you know, like I sit at my studio sometimes, and it's like I don't want to think in 7 or 9. I just want to hear a melody. And once I lock it in, I go, oh, wow, that's 7, you know. But then once I'm playing it, then the more I play it, it gets free. I could free up, you know.
So you can make variations on that melody, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Jack DeJohnette, I remember him talking one time, talking about keeping track of time when he's playing a tune. And he thinks of it as a washing machine. He thinks of it as the song is at one cycle. And that's how he hears it. So similar to melody, you hear the shape of this, and he says that frees me up, so I don't have to go one. He says I hear the cycle, and that can be a long way. For most of us, we can feel a blues, maybe 12-bar cycle, and not have to worry about the form because we know it.
Right.
Well, he'll do that with a jazz tune that's 8-8-8-8 AABA form, for example, and hear that as just one event. That takes some doing. That takes some serious ears. That takes some confidence. That takes a lot. Right. But that's a great goal, to have that as your, as your foundation, So that's pretty awesome, and that's why he can play like he does. He is so free. He's one of my favorite drummers because he's so musical, but he's pocket also.
Yep. It's got both. Yep, I agree.
He's a great piano player. Plays piano exactly like he does drums, which is just not right.
I'm mad at him.
It's like the Joel Smiths of the world.
I'm mad at him.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, we all teach privately, and we've all taught in whether it be camps or schools, that sort of thing. But taking that aside, just thinking about talking to the individual member of this group that might be watching, your thoughts about taking private lessons versus self-taught. But when I say self-taught, I don't mean sitting down with your bass and figuring stuff out without having any knowledge, but there's things like Scott's Bass Lessons, which is this largest online forum in the world that has many courses on it, but you're not doing one-on-one with somebody. You're watching a video and then you're trying to do those techniques, or, all the books that are out, the method books, that sort of thing. What are you guys thinking in terms of if people want to move themselves along in the most efficient fashion, what would you suggest? I mean, listening, we've talked about that before, but I'm just talking about in terms of whether we're talking about technique or,
Well, I don't know. I mean, from my standpoint on it, I think both sides of the fence are good. I mean, I think if you could find, a teacher that understands what you're trying to do and also can just give you insight, private instruction is great. And at the same time, you got to do your homework. And now there's so much online that's accessible. It's not like, I was growing up, I had a teacher time to time and books and stuff. Now you go online and you can, you can find it forever.
Yes.
Yeah. So you just need some, I think kids they need a little bit of guidance, so if you can have private instruction, I think that's great. And I think both sides of the fence, a little private instruction, a little venture, little private instruction, little venture, on both sides.
Yeah, there's no answer to that, because if you look at the great musicians of the world, some have never had a lesson in their life. Others have gone to school and played with orchestras like a Herbie Hancock, and so he came from that side. So there's no answer, to that. But dedication to what you're doing, dedication to your craft and hard work and consistency, I mean, that all plays into whether or not you have a teacher or not, So and again, it comes back to kids today. They're so lucky to have YouTube and things like that, because there it is. And so that's why you see 10-year-olds playing, Art Tatum stuff. And it's like, what? How the heck is he doing? And they don't know they're not supposed to be able to do that until they're 11. So, that's you have to listen, you have to watch.
Yeah.
So there, to me, is key. But books are great, as long as you don't get stuck in books and try to play the book on your gig.
Right. Yeah, I
And
agree. I
I've heard
totally
that.
agree.
I was guilty of that when I started out playing, and would just play what I practiced without any goal of what I was really going for in my practice. Get my chops up, learn my scales, learn my chords. I could do all that really well, but that has nothing to do with music.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
learning the words to speak with. And so I was in essence doing gibberish, or one sentence that didn't go into the next. And so by watching and listening, you learn the syntax, you learn how people tell stories, and all of a sudden you go,
Right.
and maybe transcribe what they're doing and learn it. I don't necessarily mean write it out, although that's great too, but to just listen, memorize it, figure it out, and go, that's what's going on, So I think that's important. Still, we are all teachers, so we obviously see the value in sitting back and going, okay, that's great, but that door you're going through is great, but look next to it, there's another door.
Mm-hmm.
And giving them options, I think, is it. Just showing them you can go that way, this way, that way. You choose.
Yeah. I'm going to add a little to that, is that, like Frank was saying, there are a lot of players who never use, great players who never use any books at all, the way I see it, even for me now these days, and for kids, that all of it's good for ideas. You can get ideas. So if you're a young, kid just starting out, say, for example, playing drums or something, and you do have a teacher, you don't, you can get basic ideas from that. So you can learn how to develop a role. You can learn how to develop, because it's just drumming is singles and doubles is all it really is. It's just, that's all it is. So if you sit down and just get the basics of that, and figure out those little things, that right there will give you ideas that you can, if you have some creative juices flowing, you'll have ideas, because all it is combinations. As a drummer, coming from a drummer standpoint, you just sit there and you figure out combinations, and you figure out combinations to time, and then you start figuring out when you start figuring out that, then you start, trying to hear music with that. I mean, it's just as a kid going into it. And then, kids right now, you got Spotify, you got all the music at your fingertips. You, you don't have to worry about it.
If you had 10 lifetimes, you couldn't listen to everything you want to listen to. Yeah.
No, you couldn't listen to everything, So everything's there now. So you can just kind of pick and choose and figure out. But I think that ideas, ideally speaking, is that you develop, you learn, if you can learn at an early age, how to develop an idea.
To piggyback on that, I was just recounting an experience that I had. As Frank knows, I had a band that was playing several decades ago out of a place called Mountain Jacks in Pleasant Hill, California.
Oh yeah.
And Mark Russo, who we all know as a good buddy, was coming in every night, 5 nights a week, to play with us. And the way it was set up, and we did R&B, we did country, we did jazz, we did Latin, we did anything we felt like doing, we did it, and a lot of originals. And but the way things were set up, basically, I had to follow Mark Russo and soloing, and it was like, after he's done, it's like, what do you got to say? What I learned though was, number one, standing next to him, the electric field that came off of him, it was something you could actually really feel in your body when he starts revving up. And I'm standing right next to him, I could feel this and this energy. But what I learned from watching and listening to him, because I had to figure something out, because in those days, my approach to soloing was, okay, I got a set of changes here and I'm just going to blow. And there really wasn't much thought to phrasing. It was like, okay, what am I going to do with these changes? And listen to him, and he would, there'd be another solo in front of him, great solo, and we'd end at a high point, and we would drop the dynamics down, and he would start to play, and it would be like, ba-da, da-da-da, that kind of thing. And it was just, and he would slowly build. By the time we got to the third or fourth chorus, he's burning his way up in the, atmosphere. But he had built from nothing and gone up. And so I think that particular period of time, in part because of that experience, and again, the listening thing, was probably one of the greatest learning spurts that I had, because I'm there on stage observing. And so my teacher essentially is Mark without him verbally saying anything. It's all nonverbal communications. Like, here's how you do it, you know?
Right.
So I'm curious about experiences that you guys have had. And I kind of queried you about this earlier, in terms of bassists that you played with. And I mean, we talked about the fundamentals, but any particular experiences of playing with somebody you went, wow, this particular experience was really cool because he did that, or, you know, any.
I'm sure we could go on for hours about that.
Yeah.
There's so many, I mean, Dezon and I played together for so long, and we've shared great bass players, together. And one of my faves to play with is Abraham Laboriel Sr. Done a lot of recording with him and some gigs, and he's got unbelievable technique. He's a flamenco guitar player, so he has a completely unique way of playing with 5 fingers. It is unusual and amazing. But that's not what Abe's about, even though, yeah, it's exciting to watch him solo. It's the pocket. It's his ears. And I remember one of the first times, if not the first time, anyway, recording with him, we did 4 tunes at a session, and the great Alex Acuna was on drums. And so we're doing some trio things, backing up a singer. And I noticed that every note, I mean, literally every note I played had an effect on Abraham.
Really?
And how he accompanied me. Same for Alex, but we're talking right now bass players. And no matter what I did, he just held me up and supported everything I did. If I got busy, he would back off a little bit. He just, whatever it was like the ocean you mentioned earlier. The waves would come and go, and he was this grounded sand that was just always there supporting. And that was one of the first. There have been many, but I just remember that one standing out as like, wow, what a level of listening and no ego, playing with a heart, with a smile, and just making what I had to say pretty cool.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was, that remains to be seen. But still, I felt that way. That's what counts, right? But that was a moment for me where it's just like, wow, listen to how he really supports, and just, yeah, like, wow. And he's played with the world,
Well, and to add to that, my sense of Abe's playing is, and who was it? Oh, somebody sent me the Jocko movie. I'd watched it before, but I watched it again last night because they sent it to me it's on YouTube, I guess. And one of the things that was discussed a lot in that documentary was having to find your own sound, and how important that was, and how Jocko in fact did that. But I think that Abe is very distinct in that way too. You kind of, when you hear him play, it's him. It's very uniquely him, to me anyway. So I would assume that you guys would agree that that's an important thing as you're moving up, that you are searching for something that is kind of uniquely you, as opposed to trying to sound like everybody else, or not.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's real important. Sometimes you have to learn by imitating, so you are going to sound like somebody else for a while, but
right.
Ideally, that's the last thing you want to do on stage, is go up there and say, oh, you sound just like so-and-so, That happened to Joe Zawinul. He said they started saying, why are you playing like that? And he went, oh, all of a sudden it changed his world. And he went, yeah, I'm trying to sound like somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
He did it really well, but then he went on to find his own voice, and Weather Report kind of speaks for itself,
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, it comes back to the same thing of, you get ideas from listening to other players, and I mean, I remember as a kid, I had a teacher, I was in a music program back, his name was Bill Bell. And one day I was in there, I think it was me, Benny Green, a bunch of people were in there playing. We were kids, man, like, I don't know, 15 or something like that, maybe even younger. And I was in there, like, I loved Art Blakey, and I was in there just playing. And he walked in and he just looked at me and he just said, what are you doing to that cymbal? And I was just like, my eyes got big. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, huh? And he goes, give me that stick. And he walks over to the cymbal and he just like, he goes, you got to feel that ride cymbal. You got to put your whole body in that ride cymbal. And I'm still like looking at him, like, okay. So he says, go up in the library and get Miles Davis 4 and More and check that out. So I said, okay. He goes, yeah, you know who that is? And I was like, Tony? And he goes, yeah. You know how old he is? I said, no. He says, probably 17. Go up there and check it out.
Yeah.
So I go up, and I every day, man, after like the program, I go up to the library and listen and listen and listen and listen and listen and listen. I'd fall asleep listening, And finally, I don't know, something clicked and I could hear that ride cymbal. I mean, I really could. It was like I understood it. I couldn't figure it out. And I went straight to the drums and started playing. For a few days. And then finally one day he walked in and he looked over and he just stood in the back of the room. And I got really nervous. I was just like, but I kept playing. I just didn't look up. And he walked over and he said, Dazon, well, we've made progress.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I mean, but that's what I did, Max Roach, that's what I did, I didn't, later in years, no, I didn't want to sound like Max Roach, but the ideas that those drummers, put out there is the foundation of, that music of playing. So why wouldn't you want to I mean, I remember it was a drummer, Omar Hakim, said the same thing. He just said, yeah, he said, I used to just sit and watch and try to figure out how they were playing, where each hand dropped on the drum, and then how it felt between the notes, So, hey, but he went on to be himself. It's like you take those ideas, and then there's a little thing inside of you that you have some ideas, but you take those ideas and you make it into your ideas, So it's interesting,
Yeah. Anybody else that comes to mind for you guys that is kind of a standout in your career?
There are, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, I'm thinking about, you go and you do this thing in New York. Was it every other year, I believe?
Yeah.
Right. And the Rainforest
benefit concert.
And it's, and those are all A-class players. And there's a reason why you get called back, but there's also a reason that Will Lee gets called back. What is that reason?
Well, he's somebody that, again, does all that I said. He's ego-free. He supports the music. He totally supports the music and is vocal about that when somebody else isn't supporting the music. He wants it to be in a nice way, but it's got to be right, And so I love that about him. He's dedicated to the groove. He's has a great attitude. He shows up with a great heart and great spirit and an eagerness. He comes to the gig completely prepared. I do the charts for the rhythm section, and rarely do I have to do his charts because he always does his homework. He comes in completely prepared. Here's the charts. Well, I kind of made my own notes. I said, okay, and we refer to it for him as letter B, whatever, chorus 3, whatever. But he comes in prepared. And I don't think there's a song that he doesn't know. I mean, that's not a stretch. From all the years he's done the TV show, the Letterman bands, all that for 30 years, he had to know a lot of tunes. And he has his Beatles band, so he knows every Beatle tune, every note on those Beatle records. He's somebody who really listens literally to every note. So I love the attention to detail he brings, his spirit, his no-nonsense playing, never too much, If the note is needed, it's there. And so I think that's one of the reasons he gets the call, Plus he's cheap. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, hi, Will. How you doing, man?
Your good buddy Frank here is talking about you.
And he's fun to be around. I mean, there's nothing, that's one of the important things. One of the reasons I love Dazon is completely separate from him being a master musician. It's fun to hang out. It's like a family, and you got to get along. And he is the most supportive guy you'll have on that stage. I mean, literally, and all ears and listens. But it's about the attitude, just showing up with a great attitude, and yeah, let's make this great. even though the night before he might have been playing with some legends. Now we're at a little cafe, and it's just as important. There's no
Right.
difference. There's no difference.
No
And
difference.
I love that attitude, and that's what Will brings.
Yeah.
Well, see, these are great things that have kind of come that you've just brought up, Frank. I just jotted down attitude, coming prepared, but in the case of Will Lee, the fact that he knows all these tunes, knowing material is certainly very important. These are the kinds of things. That's what I'm looking for in this conversation, along with groove and listening and the other things we've talked about. These are great things to have come up. Anything, anybody in Dejan in your experience that kind of stands out as a bass player?
Actually, to tell you the truth, I had a great experience last year. I got called to do a kind of a session thing over in Napa, kind of like a kind of like an in-class thing, and it was with Nathan East, and it was actually pretty cool, because a week before I got the call, or got the email, and they're supposed to send me all this music, and I said, okay, great. So the week goes by. I go, are you guys gonna send me the music? Oh yeah, we got the music. Yeah, we're gonna send the music. 2 days before, I said, do you have the music? And they're like, oh, yeah, you could probably put an email tomorrow. Gets to be, I was like, okay. So we get to the day of the session, like a clinic kind of session thing. And I go the night before it's set up, all my stuff, and they sound check and all that, and everything's ready to go. So I just have to drive in on Saturday morning. So I'm pulling into the parking lot, and across is Nathan East getting out of the car. And I get out of the car, and he just smiles and says, hey, man, just like that. Just like, hey, man. And I go, hey, and we go in. And we sit down to play, and all of a sudden we look at each other, and they said, you didn't get any music, did you? And I go, no. They're like, oh, man. They said, well, okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to play. Okay. I said, okay. I'm just going to start this groove. We're just going to play. So he started this groove, and we started playing. Now he's sitting in front of me, and I'm behind him, right? And we're just sitting there, and we played for I must have been a half an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just turning around. He just smiles and said, yeah, man. And then, so they were in the control room. They came out and they said, hey, man, we recorded all that. He said, oh, great. Keep it all. And we played some more, man. And it was just no ego. I mean, here's a guy that's played with tons of people.
Yeah.
The sweetest human being. All the way down to playing, and it was so easy to play with him. And we never looked at each other than to smile. He was sitting in front of me, and if we played something, we kind of look around and smile at each other. But it was just a great 5 hours of playing. It was just awesome, and just to say that he's that kind of player, but also where his heart is as a human being, he's just so happy, and it comes through. It just through his bass playing. He's just got the feel. He's got it all, man. But he's just a cool dude to hang out with. Sweet cat, man. Great player. And it was just that moment of not even knowing what we were going to do. And we played for probably 5 hours at least. And it was crazy, man. I mean, we played all kind of music, man. We just laughed the whole time. Nothing unrehearsed.
The way it should be, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
I think I was going to say the first Rainforest gig I did a long time ago. Nard, Michael Walden's the musical director, and we were talking. He says, who should we get for bass? I said, Nathan East. And we had just played with him, and so he flew him into New York, and he was awesome. And then it switched to Will because they wanted for pretty much New York players, and of course Will was great too. But Nathan is just exactly like you said. It's just like butter playing with that guy,
Yeah.
He's so busy because he's a great guy and serves
really,
the music.
That's right. He's really cool.
And that's got to be, I would think that's got to be pretty high on the list of, if we're making a list of things that bassists need to be aware of as they're working their way up through the ranks, that whole attitude and lack of ego thing is, and just being a great hang, it's got to be almost equally important to all the other things we're talking about.
There's a lot of great musicians out there, and so
Yeah.
never a loss of somebody to call. And if you have the right attitude, you're going to get the calls. I'd much rather have somebody who has that attitude that technically is crazy great. Not that the combination isn't awesome, but you want to have fun.
You want to have fun. You want to feel good. You want to feel free to play. And that's the whole thing to me.
That's
It's just like, I've been playing with Frank for, oh my God, for years and years and years, man. And it's always been the same, man. So it's like we could be at his house playing. We could be at a tiny club. We could be on a big stage. He's gonna bring it. He brings it with passion. He cares about it, and you just want to go there. As soon as he starts playing, you just want to just go with him, And we've played together for years, man. And it's been that way. Always, it was first. No ego, no trips, no hangups,
Right.
no things. When you get to that stage, no matter what that stage is, it's time to go. It's time to play. So that's what you want, and it's a good hang. It's fun, funny. It's like that's. I'm telling you all this now, man. Now you owe me, man. So PayPal, man. PayPal.
Well, I want to again pick you back on that because Frank and I were music students together at the local university here. Again, more decades ago than we want to admit, and we were doing. I think when we first started playing together, we were doing like a Tuesday night jam session at my house with some good buddies, other musicians and students that were at school with us as music majors. So none of us, and we were learning, and those were great sessions because they were planned out. Like these are the 3 tunes we're doing next week. So take a look at them and let's be ready and let's play. And that went on for a while. It was great. Frank, what I noticed when I think back to that, the attitude hasn't changed with you. It's the same. And is that just something that you were brought up with, or is something you just kind of latched onto that at some point went, I really need to focus on that? I don't think you focused on it. I think it's just you.
I think it's life. You can't separate life from you, So, I think I appreciated that feeling from others. And so I guess I emulated that, but not thinking about it. I just knew in life it felt good to be around that person. And I want to be like that,
Yeah.
I might have been at 5 years old. I don't know, whenever that was, but I don't think it's a conscious thing because I don't think you can fake that. I think you bring life to the gig, and if it's fake, ain't
you're going to be found out pretty quickly. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think what he's saying. Yeah, you go to the gig, you want to do this, you want to create, you want to play. It's a hang with people that that you enjoy and they enjoy you, and you can't fake it. It's like it's not a practice thing. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be this person when I get in the car and drive off.
Right.
I'm going to be this kind of guy. It's like that's not even a thought. It is what it is, and it is because other people are the same way, and you gravitate to people like that. You gravitate to each other.
Right.
Like
well, and it goes to approach as well, because if either one of you guys are in an ensemble situation and you're trying to work, whether it's rehearsal, whatever, and you're trying to work something out, there are ways to communicate, and there are ways that probably would not be effective to communicate that just sour the whole thing. And my sense about both of you is that, and I know with Frank because I've spent a lot more time with him, that you're never going to get a sour response from him. Even if he doesn't internally doesn't like what's going on, he will find a way to state it where nobody's being torn down. Right. And the right information is being disseminated, and maybe and most likely in some sort of a helpful manner. And I think it's important because I think we've all found ourselves in situations where there are musicians that don't necessarily have those values.
Oh,
characteristics.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Growing up and playing, man, I've had some.
I made a list, actually. Let's start with
we want to hear them, Frank. The names.
Don't ever accept a gig with what's his name? Oh, we've been on that other side. He's right. I can remember situations where it was uncomfortable and how it was presented, rather than you might try a different chord. It's like you suck or whatever. That's not that doesn't work. We've been there. I've been there, and I think we all learned that that's not the way to communicate. I don't want to ever do that, because I know what it feels like to be on the other end of that.
Would you say that that's happened when you guys are operating with musicians of your caliber? Do you think is that still happening with some folks without naming names?
Rarely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rarely.
rarely though. Rarely. I mean, not so much now, but there's been moments that I've kind of like had to sit there and go, breathe, Design. Breathe, Design. Smile, Design.
Yeah.
Because if I don't breathe and smile, it's gonna get ugly, you know. So,
Yeah.
and I'd rather not. I'd rather pass, you know, because it's just too many people to play with. You know,
Exactly.
there's too many good people, man, on the planet from all around the freaking world to play with it. You don't have to waste energy on that. And sometimes people end up they never get it. Then sometimes they do, and you see them later in life, and you're like, wow, I think you finally realized that that didn't work out for you.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
just say it.
Yeah.
Great. Any other thoughts that you guys have before we close this up? Any final thoughts in terms of our general topic here that we're talking about? That
Oh, I think just play in as many situations as you can as an upcoming musician.
You're here. Yeah, I agree.
Don't say no. Just say yes. When somebody calls, and then say, "Oh, what kind of music is it, by the way?" And then explore that. I can remember at a certain point having an attitude about certain kinds of music because I didn't get it. I didn't understand that genre, and later I went, "Oh, that was really stupid," you know. And so having an open energy and attitude toward all music, because to play with Willie Nelson, you got to bring it in a whole
Right.
different way than if you're playing with John Coltrane or whatever. It's a
Exactly.
whole,
Well
which
said.
one has more value?
Well said.
Neither has more value. They're both incredible. If you bring that to the table. I can remember songs being an issue. Oh, I'm not going to play that song. It's corny. It's like, really? No, it's not. It's just how you are playing, how you're approaching that song. Maybe that's corny. You might look at that. But to play Proud Mary and bring it, it's like,
Hmm.
damn, that's deep,
Yep.
It takes a minute to learn that. So you have to listen and learn the craft of each style of music, and then you know how to bring it from listening. But I think just being open to genres, explore everything. Again, YouTube is what a
Oh my
blessing.
goodness. It's
Just
a
type
blessing.
in world music, type in
And
country, type in whatever you want, and it's like, oh my God,
that's
One of the
crazy.
incredible experiences I've ever had was working in Sweden for a couple of weeks, teaching singers and doing this festival over there. And at one point, the singers sat us down. Gary Brown, great local bass player, and I sat us down and surrounded us and started singing Swedish folk tunes. And it was the most soulful thing I've ever heard, that is equal to another situation like that, of course, but in that moment, it was like, damn, I knew nothing of this, but I was completely in awe of how real it was and how equally important and of value as anything I've ever done, if not more.
Mhm.
So I think just being open, that would be one thing I would suggest. Listen and be open to all music, and, you're on your way.
Right. Dizon, any thoughts?
No, I would totally agree with what Frank just said. All of the above.
Hmm.
No ego. Stay open. Listen. It's all there now. Like I said, YouTube's it's plenty to learn and explore. It's all
Exactly.
there.
And one more thing to add is all those years of playing with you, Tom, has been great because you always bring a simplicity to playing too. It's not about the notes. It's about playing the appropriate stuff and learning the tunes. You've always been one to learn all genres of music as well and bring the core up front, the simplicity of it, not trying to be Jaco Pastorius. I can't stand it when somebody tries to do that in the middle of, Misty. It's like, no, Misty, we don't need Jaco. I love Jaco, but not there, and so, kudos to you for always
Well,
being
thank you.
a team
Yeah.
player. It's
Thank
real
you.
important.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you two coming on board and doing this. This is, as I said earlier, this is a real departure from the kinds of broadcasts I've been doing. And to be honest with you, as much as I love these basses, and I really do, I do think that, as Frank, I was telling you on the phone yesterday, they're important. These basses are really incredible, but they are only instruments, and the music's inside of each one of us. And it's so to be able to have a show like this where we're actually talking about the business, not the business, but the playing of the music and the approach. and who we are as musicians, to me, is even more important than the basses are. I'm probably going to get some flack for saying that, but that's kind of how I feel about it personally. Anyhow, so I want to thank the two of you for taking the time to do this, and it's the first of, I hope, many forums of this type, and I hope to have you guys back on at some point. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you too, man.
Okay.
Tom.
Great. I missed this on. Never get to see you.
I know, man. That's why I'm just sitting here going, wow, I'm actually talking to people and seeing people that I haven't seen in a long time.
Just invite us to come each week. You do this so we can just talk to our friends.
There you go. All right. Send me a list. All right. Anyway, thanks again, you guys. If you guys want to hang for a second, I just want to have a few closing words. I'll close the show and I'll get back on with you in a second. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks again.
All right.
All right. Well, that concludes this show. And these guys are great friends, and obviously they're great musicians. You should check out their work. I think they're probably both on YouTube. But certainly you can check their websites out. I think I listed them on the Facebook little blurb about this thing. So you can check them out and see what they've done. And I would love some feedback from you guys, even if you didn't see this live, if you were watching the recording of it, in the comment box of what you thought about this kind of content and whether it resonates with you and that sort of thing. In any case, thank you so much. And we will see you next time. It's Tom Lilienthal signing off.